The idea is that even if our scientific theory, which is deemed to be true, if it has no practical application in everyday life, it risks to be dismissed by the general public. For example, again, relativity, quantum mechanics. Most of the people don't even know what it is. Why? Because they don't use it on a day-to-day basis. So similarly, I take that even if a religion is perceived to be true, it must be useful also in order to be appreciated and practiced by the general public. I understand that the ultimate purpose of a religion goes beyond any material gains. The objective is to bring us closer to God, to Allah. But I argue that taking advantage of this religion, including material benefits, is a mark of faith in itself. Why? Because it assumes that God is inherently good, loving. And if He asks me to do something, it is for my own good as well. Bismillah, salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. So we're in chapter 3, section 5, a useful religion. So just to recap, the idea in that chapter is to see how a scientific theory affects us, our vision of the world, and what we expect from that scientific theory in order to take it into consideration and apply it, to make that scientific theory become a scientific paradigm, in other words. Similarly, I want to see if religion, if Islam, can do the same, can be used to achieve the same objectives, or at least to follow similar processes. So I went through evaluating Islam in terms of its sources, the text, like how sound they have been transmitted to us. And then I went to explore how relevant that material, these texts, are. As a scientist, how scientifically relevant they are. And that's where I was discussing the different verses and how they can be read in light of modern science. Then I explained that scientific theories can also redefine notions. They can be counterintuitive and redefine notions that seems natural, like relativity, quantum mechanics, heliocentrism. And I showed that similarly a religion can do the same and does the same. Islam redefines success, what's good, and so on. Now, and in that section 5, I'll discuss how useful that religion is. And I'll compare it to a scientific theory. A scientific theory needs to be useful. That's a requirement. So similarly, a religion, if it follows the same process, I'm expecting it to be useful as well. So the previous evaluation of the historicity of the text, the evaluation of their relevance, scientific as far as I'm concerned, and the underlying logic of the proposed worldview helps me build trust in the text. It reassures me that the material, the Quran and Sunnah, is sound and coherent within itself. Now that the trust is established, I'm ready to explore how useful these different practices that are conveyed through the text are. Practices like fasting, prayers, and so on. The idea is that even if our scientific theory, which is deemed to be true, if it has no practical application in everyday life, it risks to be dismissed by the general public. For example, again, relativity, quantum mechanics. Most of the people don't even know what it is. Why? Because they don't use it on a day-to-day basis. So similarly, I take that even if a religion is perceived to be true, it must be useful also in order to be appreciated and practiced by the general public. I understand that the ultimate purpose of a religion goes beyond any material gains. The objective is to bring us closer to God, to Allah. And in this aim, Islam, as the last religion of the book, builds on the notion of love that is prevalent in Christianity, but also stays true to the more rigorous nature of Judaism with all the rules. So while the love is an integral part of Islam, because it is essential to build a relation with God and the rest of his creation, I will only deal with the benefits that one can derive from adhering to the rituals. At first sight, prayers, fasting, to abstain from certain food, like halal, haram, seems to curtail rather than promote satisfaction. However, the spiritual elevation which is promoted by the Quran and exemplified by the Prophet ﷺ should guarantee an improvement of my at least psychological state. Furthermore, an improved psychological state is expected still to result in the longer term in an improved material situation. And that is interesting because it is well documented and researched that the way you reframe yourself and what is happening in your life can help you overcome challenges. It gives you a clear head start on how to move on and to succeed, go beyond in your life. So surely my objective in life should not to be burdened either physically or psychologically with the pursuit of material gains. But I argue that taking advantage of this religion, including material benefits, is a mark of faith in itself. Why? Because it assumes that God is inherently good, loving, and if He asks me to do something, it is for my own good as well. So if Allah asks me to pray 5 times a day, to go for Hajj, to give zakat, to fast, the belief is that it is inherently good for me. Whether I realize it directly or indirectly. And to look for material benefits while adhering to these practices becomes a mark of faith. The Prophet ﷺ said that the difference between a believer and a disbeliever is the prayer. But the prayer are just outward actions. But still, these outward actions implies quite a lot in the background. They implies belief, they implies seeking pleasures of Allah, they imply trying to better oneself, they imply a whole different framework, worldview. Continuing. So in this chapter, I'll therefore expose some of the psychological and material benefits generated by adhering to the religious views and practices. The first of which is positivity. As argued in the first chapter of this book, the long-term satisfaction is found by keeping some distance with that material world, with the materiality of this world. So in this aim, prayer, for example, invites me to suspend my daily activities, my daily occupations, my duties, just to put them on hold for a while. The recommended zakat literally asks me to give up some of my wealth. Pilgrimage disconnect me entirely from daily life, to get as close as possible to God by enacting Judgment Day. Another example is fasting. Fasting asks me to refrain from basic needs, food, to make me aware of the needs I have and the excesses I might indulge in. So I appreciate that each of these practices helps me distance myself from the materiality of this world. As I said a while ago, material goods are doomed to degrade. The body age, my clothes wear out, and so on. So by considering these goods as means, vehicles, to use them for something greater rather than goals in themselves, like to collect them for the sake of it, then I protect myself from these weaknesses. Like if the jacket wears out, it's all right. I won't get depressed. I'll just get it fixed or get a new one. Because the objective of that jacket is not just to have it, is to use it for a greater purpose, to look good, to get some brownie points, to be presentable, may Allah accept. So thus, by considering these goods as means, as vehicle to achieve something greater enables me to overcome material difficulties, like if I lose it. And it helps me reinterpret life's challenges as an opportunity to get closer to God. So this material detachment gives me space to better rely on the divine. Accordingly, the religious practice invites me to build a stronger relation with God and not with this object. It invites me to build trust in God. Trust that God is infinitely good, loving, and that He deserves the best of each of us. And that detachment enables me to reevaluate my goals in this world while maintaining hope for a better future, which is ultimately paradise. To give an example of the past prophets, when I was kids, we always talk about Nuh alayhi salam and the flood, and how Nuh alayhi salam, being able to go to build a boat, to go on a boat, and to be saved from the flood is a blessing. Yes, it is a blessing, of course. But imagine, try to put yourself in his shoes. He has to build something huge. It's not easy. Everyone was making fun of him. So you have to go against the flow, to be perseverant, to build a boat. Then the flood starts. And then you go through 40 days of, it's like I don't know, hurricane or storm. That is not a cruise. It's not a cruise. It's quite disastrous. But still, Allah calls it a blessing, which means that even though it is difficult, it is obviously really maybe the most difficult part of his life, and he has to go through, and it's not easy, and he has to make decisions, but still at the end of it, Allah called all this process a blessing, that through this he was saved. He became the future and an example for the community, which means that things might seem difficult at the moment when I leave them, but I have the trust that it is for greater good. So as long as I act accordingly to divine guidance, to the best of my abilities and understanding, I'm invited to see all outcomes as benefits and opportunities, regardless of the material gain obtained or loss incurred. This is how worship helps me maintain a positive view of the world. وجزاك الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.